Welcome to the We Are Not Born Failures podcast. I'm your host, Moises Linares. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of this podcast. Look, you probably noticed that I took a day off. And before we continue, like always, I have to check the audios, make sure that everything's functioning, everything is working. So, like I was saying, I took a week off. I had a couple things going on, and sometimes I feel that you have to kind of reset and just make sure that you're all there. Así que me tomé un descanso, una semanita para poder regresar con todas las energías, listo y dispuesto para llevar a cabo este podcast. Y como siempre que hago un podcast, paso varios días pensando de los temas de los que quiero tocar. Today, I think something that's been in my heart, it's the fact of forgiveness. I know it's difficult. Sometimes it makes me stumble and kind of just stop myself in my tracks. La palabra el perdón. Ese es el tema, ¿verdad? El perdón. And it's a very delicate topic for a lot of people. Forgiveness. What does it mean? How do we apply it? How have I experienced forgiveness? Because to be honest with you, when it's all said and done, this podcast has a lot to do with the way I see things, with my opinion, with my experiences that I know a lot of you at home share. I know I'm not the only one that goes through things, difficult moments, difficult situations. No soy el único. Fuera mentiroso si yo dijera que solo a mí me pasan estas cosas. Si algo he descubrido de este podcast es que hay mucha gente que se siente igual. Y como lo mencionaba en inglés, a veces tengo que tomar algunos días para en realidad pensar y decir de qué debería hablar, qué podría ser algo que ayude a personas. And I thought about forgiveness because it's perhaps one of the hardest things to do in life. To forgive people that have hurt us, harmed us, they've done us wrong. It's very difficult. I know that in instances, I've had to fold. I've had to, what is this the phrase, I have to twist my arm, and I've had to forgiven people who have done bad things, not physically. It could be emotional, it could be physical, but it's difficult. It's difficult to forgive people who have really marked us, who have hurt us. I know that within my community, the Latino community, is something that happens often. What does it mean to forgive, right? To really let go. Let go of that pain, let go of that hurt, able to move on. Sometimes it's a mental thing. And by no means am I telling anybody that it's an easy thing to do, because it's not. It's very difficult to forgive someone who's done you wrong. Speaking from my personal experience, hay ocasiones donde hemos tenido que perdonar, o he tenido yo que perdonar a personas que me han lastimado mentalmente, emocionalmente. No podría decir que aplica la parte física. Bueno, aparte de los castigos de mi mamá, que a veces tocaban difícil. Mentira. Tocaron castigos al estilo centroamericano, pero ya lo superé. Me refiero a esa ansiedad, ese dolor, esa carga. And that's where I want to get to, right? It's difficult. It's difficult to forgive someone who's hurt you. But I've learned that when you don't forgive, you're carrying that weight around. And before you know it, years have passed by, and you're still carrying that weight. You're still carrying that hurt. You're still carrying that pain, while that person who probably hurt you is walking around free, not even noticing they've done harm to you. Not even an idea or a clue they did something to you, but we walk around with this pain, with this hurt, looking for vengeance, looking for revenge, looking or hoping that that person goes through that same pain they put us through. It happens a lot. Sometimes it happens within your own family. Sometimes it's difficult to acknowledge, to talk about these things, because we feel that we're going to be judged, or it's going to start a war. A lot of people are non-confrontational. They don't like the arguments. They don't like the battles. They don't like the face-to-face yelling, going back and forth, because there's people who won't admit they're wrong. What I've learned is the fact that sometimes we have to forgive them, even though it should be them asking us for forgiveness. Eso sí lo he aprendido muy bien. Hay ocasiones donde nosotros, a pesar que tal vez no hemos hecho nada incorrecto, somos nosotros los que tenemos que pedir perdón o perdonarnos a nosotros mismos. No es fácil, créanmelo, no es fácil. En mi propia familia me ha tocado lidiar con eso, pero he aprendido que al hacer cosas así, me ha ayudado a crecer mucho. Me ha ayudado a madurar, me ha ayudado a seguir en mi camino. And it's been liberating more than anything. The fact that you let go of that pain, you let go of that hurt, you let go of those chains, because in a way, that's what happens. You carry that pain and you're chained to that pain, and you're walking around with that, with that weight around, just dragging it. Hard. I'll give you an example. Maybe a lot of you have gone through that. Maybe a lot of you can relate to the fact that sometimes within our own families, we have issues, we have problems, and it's difficult to say, let's talk about it. Let's solve these issues. How can we move forward? How can we be better? Not everybody is willing to sit down, come to the table, bring their arguments, and just talk in order to move on, or to bring out topics that are difficult to talk about within our families. I know, because I've been there. I'll start, and I'll let you know that I am in a much better place today. Estoy en un lugar mucho mejor que en el que estuve cuando era más joven, cuando era adolescente, un adulto en mis 20s. Ya no estoy ahí. Estoy en un lugar donde hoy puedo hablar abiertamente de estas cosas. No me atrevía antes. For a long time, the people who know me, my circle of friends, a lot of you might not know many things about my life, but I had this beef. I had this issue with my biological father. Difficult to talk about it. For many years, we couldn't talk about it. I would see him here and there. I didn't grow up with him. He was never around when I was a kid. He had his own family. He had other kids who I'm close to now, who I love very much today. They're my family as well. They're my siblings as well. But I didn't grow up with them. And I had this beef with my father. I couldn't see him eye to eye. I had resents, right? And I carried that. Everywhere I went, I carried it. For a while, it was my motivation, right? It was my fuel to keep going in life. It was the reason why I pushed myself so hard. Because inside of me, I had a point to prove. Por muchos años, eso fue mi vida. Tratar de comprobar que yo no necesitaba a mi padre, que yo lo podía hacer solo. My experience was a lot more different than most people. When you read my book, We Are Not Born Failures, you see it, right? I had a stepfather who I loved like a father, not the best person either. And I had my biological father who was never there, never. I would see him here or there. We had a lot of differences. We reconnected when I was about 14, I would say, 14, 15, around there, after many years of not seeing each other. And as much as I wanted to speak to him, I couldn't speak to him, and he wouldn't speak to me. It was just a very transactional relationship. What's up? What's going on? How you doing? Okay, see you. Peace. That was it. Just give me the money you were going to give me, which in that case was $20. I know, it sucks. It's not, well, I didn't. Actually, that's a part that's edited in the book. The point that I'm trying to make is not the fact that I got 5, 10, 20. He was not a good dude, man. I'm not saying he was a bad person. He was not a good father to me. But after many years of carrying that pain, that resentment, because I had it inside me, it didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter how I tried to frame that picture, tenía un resentimiento muy, muy grande contra él. And one day, which it was the first time ever, we got into this argument. We got into this big argument. He was telling me something about something I had done. I think I had won my first Emmy, and he didn't like the fact that I didn't mention him. And that just boiled, right? It escalated, and one thing led to another. And I've never been disrespectful because my mom always taught me that. And it's because of her that I feel that I am the way that I am today. But I was able to muster the courage after that argument, a couple years after, I would say, where him and I, we talked, and I told him how I felt. And I said, I forgive you for not being the best father, for not being there, for not showing up when you should have showed up. And I know that's the experience that a lot of kids have today. A lot of us adults, we've had similar stories where one of the parents perhaps wasn't there. He wasn't as attentive. He didn't show up when he needed to show up. Es una historia muy común hoy en día. Muchos padres, incluso madres, no solamente estoy hablando de los padres, no están ahí como deberían estar. Entonces hay una ausencia enorme y eso crea resentimiento, enojo, dolor, y cargamos con eso. Y después de tanto tiempo logré hablar con mi padre. Hablamos, le dije cómo me sentía. He didn't say a word. He had nothing to say. There was nothing to say. I just had to let it out. But it was coming from a good place. Now, here's the difference. I was willing to talk. It was not an attack. I was not attacking him. I was not telling him off. I just needed to get that out of my system. So I told him that I forgave him, that I wanted to move forward because that had been weighing in my heart, but he had to know the things that I had been carrying for many, many years. And I wanted to make it clear that my intention was to move forward together, not for me to just tell him off and leave. But it took a lot from me to get to that point. The willingness to be able to go and have that conversation was difficult. Just the fact that I had to muster the courage and just stand in front of him and tell him, this is how I feel. This is what you did wrong. This is when you didn't show up. This is what I didn't receive from you. It took a lot of courage, but it had to be done. But after that conversation with him, I felt liberated. I felt better about myself. I saw him differently. We started working on our relationship. It didn't happen overnight, and I'm not saying that we have the best father-son relationship. I think that's something you build throughout life. Till this day, we're working on it. Till this day, we are still trying to find that connection, but we're both willing to go above and beyond, and we talk, and I visit him, and I see that I don't want to live life carrying that pain. I don't want him to one day not be be in this world and for him to go away with all that inside of him. So I started working on that. Y el poder decirle eso, la verdad es decirle, mira, aquí no estuviste, mira, aquí yo te necesité en este momento y nunca estuviste para mí y eso me causó dolor y eso me llevó a hacer cosas que tal vez no tendría que haber hecho. But I had to say it. That helped me immensely. El poder sacarme eso de encima, perdonarlo, pero de corazón, no solamente de palabras, perdonarlo y seguir. Y después tratar de crear una amistad, una mejor relación, tener mejor comunicación. Y hasta el día de hoy seguimos trabajando en esa parte porque no está todo ahí. Pero dar el paso hacia adelante, tener esa disposición para hacerlo, ha sido fundamental, ha sido tal vez lo más importante que me ha pasado como hombre, como persona. And that's what I tell people. That's what I tell my sisters. That's what I tell my friends. Sometimes you have to forgive for you. not for anybody else. Because there's people who you forgive and they still don't tell you, hey, I'm sorry for causing you that pain. I'm sorry because that happened. They'll probably still be in denial. They'll probably still say they didn't do anything wrong. And that's normal. It's a normal thing we see today. But I wanted to just get rid of that. And once I did that, it opened a different door for me. Because I felt now I know that I can do that with anybody who's probably put me in a similar situation, has made me feel in a very similar way. Then I did it with my stepfather. And then I did it with some uncles. And I did it with some friends. They never came and asked me for forgiveness. It was me going to them and saying, I forgive you. And moving on. And I think today we don't have the willingness to do that because we're too prideful. Our egos are too big. We want them to come to us. And we stand on this position of whether either they come to us or we're not going to them. And I'm not going to talk to them if they don't talk to me. And that's the world we live in, right? It's a world of a lot of pride, which, if anything, puts distance between us. A lot of families today, I'm speaking to the Latino community, a lot of families, it doesn't matter what country you're from, we see this often. If my mom is in a fight with my aunt, that fight becomes my fight. They said that to my mom, then all right, cool, I'm not talking to them. I'm beefing with them too. And the problems of our parents, of our uncles, our aunts, even our grandparents, they just trickle down. And we pick up that problem and then we carry that. I have family members who have not spoken in 20, 30 years because they had problems back then, 20, 30 years ago. Never resolved their issues, never talked about it. And their problems became part of their kids' problems, right? Their problem became their kids' problems. And then the sons and the daughters, they picked up that beef and they carried it. And then they had kids. And now they're part of that problem too. Without ever being there. They were never really there. It was just passed on. And it's passed on. And it's passed on. And that's something that happens today. That's happening every other day. A lot of people who don't talk to each other because of that. That person had a problem with my mom. I don't speak to them, even though that person never did anything to me. But I feel that they offended my mother, so that's it. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes when we don't address these things, they just keep going and going and going. And when I say going, I'm talking about years pass by, decades pass by. It's been 20, 30 years. We still haven't talked about what took place back then. And perhaps that person has no idea they hurt you. So you carry that pain. Sometimes you have to forgive for you. A lot of people say, well, no. We talk about the Bible. And if you want to go there, I think Jesus told Peter, hey, Peter asked him, how many times should I forgive my brother who sinned against me? And he said, 70 times 7. Can you count? How many times is 70 times 7? It's an infinite number of times. That's the number you should forgive your brother or sister, friend, neighbor. Sometimes we don't even want to forgive them one time for small little things, for issues that are really irrelevant. And I want to say that in Spanish because I know that a lot of the people who watch this, a lot of people who listen to this speak Spanish and perhaps don't understand English, but they're there listening to this podcast, trying to learn as we all are. A veces el perdón no es para ellos, es para nosotros. El perdón es para poder seguir nuestro camino, para poder seguir creciendo, para no cargar con el dolor, para no cargar con todo ese peso encima, porque ese peso siempre lo vamos a cargar mientras tengamos ese rencor, mientras sintamos que hay algo dentro de nosotros que le desea mal al prójimo, siempre vamos a cargar ese dolor mientras no perdonemos a esa persona que nos ha lastimado. Y no es fácil, así que no estoy diciendo que es algo que se soluciona de la noche a la mañana, pero hay gente que habla de la Biblia, habla de Jesús, y cuando tú ves la Biblia y tú ves Jesús y mucha gente dice, tienes que ser como Jesús. Bueno, la realidad es que Pedro una vez le preguntó a Jesús y le dijo, ¿cuántas veces debería perdonar a mi hermano? Y Jesús le respondió, 70 veces 7. Now, here's the thing. 70 times 7. My mom and I, we speak about this all the time because there's been a lot of people who have hurt my mother. There's a lot of people who have said things that have caused pain in my mother's life. And we have this conversation where that conversation always ends. How many times should we forgive somebody? 70 times 7. And that's helped me be a better person. That's helped me grow. A lot of the person or a lot of the way that I am today, the person that I am today, it's because since I was a little kid, my mom always showed me to forgive, right? Forgive those who hurt you. Don't hold grudges. My mom has this thing about me where she says, Moises, you're the type of person where you don't see bad in people until they do bad to you. And that is very accurate. A veces uno no ve el mal en las personas hasta que le hacen el mal a uno. Y ahí ves las cosas muy diferentes. Pero aún así, yo pienso que es muy cierto el perdonar. No hay que confundir el perdonar con seguir en lo mismo y seguir aguantando y seguir sufriendo. No, uno perdona y sigue su camino. El sabio ve el mal y se aparta, dicen por ahí. So yeah, forgiving people doesn't necessarily translate into putting up with the same stuff over and over and over. No, by no means. By no means do not go and do that. Forgiving means letting it go, moving forward, and keep going. That's what forgiveness means to me, to a lot of people. If you do your research, perhaps you'll find some of the same definitions, some of the same stories. I just feel that what's the point in holding grudges? Where does it really get us? Where do we go when we hold a grudge? It gives us absolutely nothing but resentment, that extra weight that you don't need. Use that energy to move forward, to do great things in life. For you, not for anyone else. Don't do what I did for a long time, which was, let me prove them wrong. Let me show them that I'm great. I did that for many years, and it took so much energy out of me. The fact that I would say, I'm going to show them that I'm great, right? Went through a breakup with a girl that I was in love with when I was in college. And after that breakup, my initial reaction was, I'm going to show her how great I am, and I'm going to do it to prove everybody wrong. And that was my motivation for a couple of years. Just proving everybody wrong, that I was right and they were wrong. And with time, I learned that no, that just takes so much from you. So I started searching. I started looking for other ways. And what I found was what you guys see a lot of today, inspiration. Get inspired. Get inspired so that fire never ends. It's not to prove anybody wrong. It's to prove me right. It's to show myself that I can do anything that I set my mind to. No resentment, no pain. Let go. And whenever I feel any type of way, I try to talk to people. I try to have conversations. And if it's not possible, great. I really tried. And I moved forward. I just kept going. That's what I tell people. That's what I tell my friends. The ones that I speak to a lot, the ones that are always asking me for advice. Forgive, move on. Let it go. If it's not your problem, your immediate problem, if it's something that happened with your family, let them resolve it. Let them talk about it. Don't get involved. Just keep going. It will serve you no purpose. Especially now with social media, with Instagram, with Facebook, with Threads, with X, formerly known as Twitter. Now we have all these platforms where people are just beefing all the time. and sending all these subliminal messages or direct messages, insults. No, there's no need. Just either sit down or talk, right? Sit down and talk, or just keep going. Because at the end of the day, the only person you're harming is yourself. The only person who's actually paying a price, it's you. Most of the time, it's not them, it's you. You're paying the price. That's why forgiveness it's crucial in our lives. Not even just for us to grow, just for you to be complete, for you to grow. I feel that you can grow if you have resentment. You can grow in other areas as a professional, perhaps, but as a person, it's difficult to grow when you're walking around with all these things inside of you, all these negative things, because resentment, pain is all negative energy. I just want to clarify one thing. There's a lot of people who have been victims of terrible things in life. And I know that's very hard. So by no means am I trying to say you are supposed to forgive them too. No. Some of us actually need professional help, and we should seek it. We need to seek that help in order to move on. Sometimes we need therapy. Sometimes we need to look for that other route because we can't do it ourselves. Sometimes we need God, put it on Jesus and let him take care of it if you believe in Jesus, because I'm not trying to force anything on you either. All I'm saying is, if you need the help, go and look for it. Go get that help. But walking around with all that is not going to help you. That's my point. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of We Are Not Born Failures. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Leave some comments. Leave some feedback. Perhaps if you want to share your story, go for it. I always love reading your comments. I always love reading the DMs. But more comments, more shares, that helps the podcast. We're not stopping anytime soon. So thank you for tuning in for another episode of the We Are Not Born Failures podcast. Have a great week.